People think this headset is just plastic and wire. They are wrong. It is an umbilical cord. It connects me to strangers in their darkest moments. My name is Elaine. I have been listening to the darkness for 15 years. They say a mother always knows when her child is in danger. But in this job, I know when everyone is in danger. Welcome to the Hive. That is what we call the dispatch center. It is located in the basement of the old precinct. It is always freezing down here, even in July. That is why I wear this old wool cardigan. It feels like a hug. No windows, no sunlight, just the hum of servers. And the smell of stale coffee and fear. At 10 p.m., the day shift leaves. Sarah packed her bag. "Good luck, Elaine," she said, looking at the rain outside. "Full moon tonight. The crazies will be out." She walked out. The heavy steel doors slammed shut behind her. Slam. The electronic lock engaged. I was locked in. Just me, the monitors, and 8 hours of silence. Before old Henderson passed away last year, he left a note on my desk. He treated me like a daughter. He wanted to protect me. The note is taped to the side of my monitor. The ink is fading, but I know the words by heart. It is a list of rules. Not official protocols. They are survival rules for the night shift. I read them out loud to keep myself calm. Rule number 1. Always check the security camera for corridor 4. If you see a little girl in a dirty red dress standing there, turn off the monitor immediately. Do not hesitate. Do not look at her face. She does not like to be seen. And whatever you do, do not unlock the door for her. Rule number 2. If you receive a call that sounds like water, like someone trying to speak underwater, do not hang up first. Let them hang up. If you hang up first, they will call back immediately. But the next time, the sound will be closer. Henderson underlined the word closer 3 times. Rule number 3. Never bring a mirror into the hive. Cover the bathroom mirror with a towel if you have to use it. The reflections down here, they are not always accurate. Sometimes they show things standing behind you. Things that should not be there. I used to think Henderson was senile. A crazy old man. But tonight, the air feels heavy, thicker than usual. I can feel eyes on the back of my neck. I turned around 3 times already. No one is there. Just the empty chairs and the blinking lights of the servers. But the feeling persists. My skin is crawling. It feels like the room is holding its breath. And then I saw it. The light on the far right of the console. Line number 9. That line has been dead for 10 years. It is not connected to anything. It is a dummy switch. A relic from the old system. But tonight, the red light is blinking. Slowly, rhythmically, like a heartbeat. And then, the sound. Ring. It wasn't the digital ringtone of the modern phones. It was the mechanical bell of an old rotary phone. Coming from the speaker that shouldn't work. My hand reached out, trembling. Henderson's rules didn't say anything about line 9. So, I answered it. I pressed the button. The mechanical ringing stopped instantly. 911. What is your emergency? I asked. My voice cracked. There was no response. No heavy breathing. No crying. Just silence. But it wasn't an empty silence. It felt heavy. Cold. Like standing in front of an open freezer door. The temperature in the hive dropped 10 degrees in a second. I could see my own breath fogging up in front of me. I should have hung up. Henderson would have hung up. But then, I heard it, very faint, through the static, a sound that every mother knows. A child whimper. Hello? I whispered, leaning closer to the console. Is someone there? Are you hurt? The maternal instinct overrode the fear. It sounded like a little boy. Maybe 6 or 7 years old. Lost. Cold. For a second, the static cleared, and I heard a voice. Small and trembling. Mommy? It's dark. And then, click, the line went dead. The red light on line 9 turned off. I sat there, frozen. My heart was hammering against my ribs. That wasn't a prank. That wasn't a wrong number. That was a child crying out from somewhere. Somewhere bad. And he called me, Mommy. I tried to trace the call. I typed furiously, my hands shaking. I needed a location. I needed to send a patrol car. But the system gave me an error message. Source unknown. Line 9 isn't connected to the grid. It's impossible to trace. I told myself it was a technical glitch. A cross-connection from an old wire. It had to be. Ghosts don't use telephones. A minute later, line 1 rang. A normal call. A domestic dispute on Elm Street. I handled it. I sent a unit. But my voice sounded hollow. Distant. The adrenaline from line 9 was still pumping through my veins. Every shadow in the corner of the room seemed deeper. The air felt heavier. Henderson's rules were staring at me from the monitor. And I had just broken the unwritten one. Don't answer the deadline. Midnight, the witching hour. I was drinking my cold tea, trying to calm my nerves. Then, the security monitor for Corridor 4 flickered. It's an old camera in the unused west wing of the precinct. Usually, it's just darkness, but tonight, the lights in the corridor were buzzing. On and off, like someone was playing with the switch. I remembered rule number 1. Check corridor 4. I leaned closer to the screen. The grain was terrible, but between the flashes of light, I saw something. At the far end of the hallway, a small shape, standing perfectly still. It looked like a child, wearing something red. My breath caught in my throat. The girl in the red dress. Henderson wasn't crazy. Turn off the monitor. Do not look at her face. The rule echoed in my head. But it's human nature to look. To try and understand. She started to move, slowly, walking towards the camera, towards me. I wanted to see her face. I wanted to know if it was the child from the phone call. But fear won. I slammed my hand on the power button. The screen went black. I gasped for air, like I had been underwater. I didn't have time to recover. Line 2 rang. I answered automatically. 911. I stopped. There was no voice. Just sound. Wet, gurgling sound. Like water sloshing in a tank. Or someone trying to breathe with lungs full of fluid. Rule number 2 flashed in my mind. If it sounds like water, do not hang up first. I sat there, hand hovering over the disconnect button. Sweat dripping down my forehead. The gurgling continued for a solid minute. It was sickening. And then I realized something terrifying. The last time Henderson heard this, he wrote that it sounded distant. But this didn't sound distant. It sounded like it was coming from inside the building. From the pipes in the walls surrounding me. It was closer. I slammed the phone down. The connection was broken, but the sound didn't stop. It wasn't coming from the speakers anymore. It was coming from above me. I looked up. The old iron pipes running along the ceiling of the basement were vibrating. Thump, thump, thump. Something was moving inside them. Something solid, pushing against the metal. A drop of liquid fell onto my desk, right next to my tea mug. I stared at it. It wasn't water. It was dark, viscous, like oil mixed with pond scum. And the smell hit me. The smell of stagnant water and rotting leaves. The same smell I imagined from the phone call. It was leaking through the joints of the pipes. The nightmare was leaking into reality. I wiped the drop with a tissue, but it left a greasy stain. My hands felt dirty. I felt contaminated. I needed to wash my face. I needed cold water to snap me out of this hallucination. I pushed my chair back and stood up. My legs felt like jelly. The only sink was in the bathroom. The bathroom at the end of the hall. The one with the mirror. I walked towards the bathroom. The corridor was freezing. Every step echoed loudly. Rule number 3 screamed in my mind. Never use the mirror. Henderson had covered the bathroom mirror with a thick yellow towel years ago. He nailed it to the wall so no one could remove it. "Trust me, Elaine," he had said. "You don't want to see what stands behind you in this room." I pushed the door open. The bathroom smelled of bleach and old pipes. I went straight to the sink, keeping my head down. I didn't look up. I turned on the faucet. The water was brown at first, then cleared up. I splashed it on my face. Freezing cold. It felt good, grounding. I kept my eyes closed, afraid to open them. I reached for a paper towel to dry my face. My hand brushed against the yellow towel covering the mirror. The nail holding it must have rusted away. The heavy fabric slipped, just a few inches. It slid down, revealing the top corner of the glass. I froze. I shouldn't look. I really shouldn't look. Slowly, involuntarily, I lifted my eyes. In the exposed sliver of the mirror, I saw the ceiling. I saw the flickering light. And then, I saw something standing in the corner behind me. It wasn't the little girl. It was tall, too tall. Its head was almost touching the ceiling. It was wearing a black suit, but it had no face. I spun around, screaming. My back hit the sink hard. The corner was empty, just tiles and peeling paint. I looked back at the mirror. The reflection was empty too. Just the ceiling. Was it my mind playing tricks? The isolation making me see monsters? Then I saw it, on the yellow towel. A wet handprint. Fresh. Right where I saw the thing standing. I didn't wait to check again. I ran. I scrambled out of the bathroom, almost slipping on the wet floor. I sprinted down the hallway back to the hive. Back to the lights. Back to the monitors. I felt like a child running from the basement monster. But I'm 45 years old. And the monsters are real. I burst into the dispatch room and locked the door behind me. I leaned against it, gasping for air. I was safe. This was my domain. Then, the red light blinked again. Line 9. It was ringing. But this time, all the other lines started ringing too. Line 1. Line 2. Line 3. All of them, lighting up the room like a Christmas tree from hell. The noise was deafening. 9 phones ringing at once. Some were digital chirps. Some were old mechanical bells. Some were just screaming static coming through the speakers. It wasn't a call center anymore. It was a choir of the damned. I covered my ears, but the sound drilled into my skull. It felt like my head was going to explode. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed the nearest handset, line 4, just to make it stop. 911, I screamed, but there was no single caller. There were hundreds. A cacophony of voices overlapped. Men, women, children, screaming for help, begging for mercy, whispering my name. Elaine. Help us. Elaine. It hurts. They weren't calling from outside. They were calling from underneath the earth. I slammed the phone down. But the voices didn't stop. I looked at my monitors. The maps were gone. The call logs were gone. Instead, every screen was showing the same thing. It was a live feed. But not from the security cameras. It was a feed of me. Standing in this room, covering my ears. It was a camera angle from the ceiling corner. But there is no camera in that corner. Then I saw it, under the door I had just locked. The black liquid I saw in the bathroom. It was seeping in, thick, oozing like molasses. It was moving against gravity, climbing up the door frame, sealing me in. The smell of rotting swamp water filled the small room, choking me. I coughed, tasting copper in my mouth. I grabbed my police radio. The emergency channel. Dispatch to all units. Officer needs assistance at the Hive. Possible intruder. Over. I waited, praying for a voice, for a siren, anything. But the radio just clicked. And then, a voice cut through the static. Not a cop. It was Henderson's voice. Dead Henderson. No one is coming. Elaine, you broke the rules. And then, as suddenly as it started, the noise stopped. The phones went dead. The screens went black. The voice on the radio vanished. The silence was heavier than the noise. It pressed against my eardrums. I stood there, shaking, holding a broken coffee mug like a weapon. Was it over? Did the power go out? One light flickered on in the darkness. The red LED of line 9. And one phone began to ring. Just one. It wasn't frantic this time. It was patient, inviting, ringing. It knew I was there. It knew I had nowhere to go. I looked at the black puddle under the door. I looked at the blank screens. I had no choice. I picked up the handset. I didn't say anything. I just listened. A voice spoke, clear as crystal, no static. It sounded like my own voice. Elaine, the voice said, open the door. We are all waiting for you. Henderson is here. Your baby is here. It was mimicking me, using my grief against me. Go to hell, I whispered. Wrong answer, the voice said. The line clicked dead, and immediately, bang, something slammed against the steel door. The whole room shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Bang, again. Whatever was outside was strong. Inhumanly strong. The lock started to groan. The handle began to turn slowly, grinding metal against metal. I backed away until I hit the far wall. I gripped the ceramic shard tighter. It cut into my palm. But I didn't care. The pain kept me focused. The handle turned all the way. The deadbolt slid back. Click. The door wasn't locked anymore. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, the heavy steel door began to creak open. Darkness poured in. I ripped the cables out. I tore the heart out of the hive. Sparks flew. The smell of ozone filled the air. And for a second, there was silence. I thought I had won. I thought I had killed it. But then, re-ng. The sound didn't stop. It got louder. The console, completely severed from the wall, lit up with a blinding red glare. Line 9 wasn't powered by electricity. It was powered by something else. Something ancient. My futile attempt only made it angry. The black liquid stopped flowing under the door. Instead, it started pouring out of the phone receiver. It erupted like a geyser of oil and rot. I tried to back away, but my legs wouldn't move. I looked down. The shadows under the desk had wrapped around my ankles. Not shadows, fingers. Long, cold, shadowy fingers merging with my skin, fusing my flesh to the floor. I screamed, but the sound died in my throat as the air in the room turned into water. My lungs filled with fluid. Thick, salty fluid. I was drowning, standing in the middle of a dry room. I was drowning. I clawed at my throat, gasping for air that wasn't there. Through my watering eyes, I saw the door open. The faceless thing wearing Henderson's uniform stepped in. It didn't walk, it floated. It held out a hand. In its palm was not a weapon, but a phone handset, an old, black rotary handset. The drowning sensation paused, just enough for me to hear. From the handset the monster offered. A voice spoke. "Mommy? Take the phone. Mommy, I'm lonely." It was Timmy, my dead son. He sounded so close. "If you take the call, you can stay with me forever," he whispered. "We can be together in the wires. No more pain. No more cold." The monster pushed the handset against my wet cheek. The plastic felt like warm skin. I knew it was a lie. I knew it was a trap. But I was so tired. 15 years of listening to other people's tragedies. 15 years of missing my boy. The darkness looked so inviting. The pain in my lungs was unbearable. But the pain in my heart was worse. I reached out, my hand, now turning gray and translucent like the monster's, grasped the phone. "I'm coming. Timmy," I whispered. "Mommy is coming home." "7 a.m. The heavy steel door beeped and opened. Sarah walked in with 2 coffees, humming a tune. "Morning, Elaine. Sorry I'm late. The traffic was." She stopped. The room was empty. Elaine's chair was overturned. Her headset lay on the floor. Her car keys were still on the desk. But Elaine was gone. There was no sign of a struggle. Just a faint, lingering smell of swamp water.
Okay.
The police searched for weeks. They checked the cameras, but the footage from 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. was corrupted. Just 4 hours of static. They assumed she had a breakdown and wandered off into the woods. They found her car in the parking lot. They found her purse, but they never found Elaine. Eventually, the case went cold. They hired a new guy for the night shift. A young kid named Mark. It was Mark's first night alone. He sat in the same chair Elaine used to sit in. He saw the old, yellowed note taped to the monitor. Henderson's rules. He laughed and thought about tearing it down, but decided to leave it as a souvenir. At midnight, the storm started outside. The room felt cold. And then, he noticed the light on the far right of the console. Line 9 began to blink. Slowly, rhythmically, like a heartbeat. Then came the ring. That awful, mechanical ring. Mark hesitated. He looked at the rules. But curiosity got the better of him. He reached out and pressed the button. 911. What is your emergency? He asked. There was a moment of silence. Then, the sound of water gurgling. And a voice spoke. It wasn't a child. It was a woman. Her voice sounded wet, cold, and eternal. "Hello, Mark," the voice whispered. "It's cold down here. We are so lonely. Why don't you open the door?" Mark felt a drop of black liquid fall onto his hand. He looked up at the ceiling. And the cycle began again.